Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Ulysses Town Hall, Ulysses Town Board. It is January 24th, 2023, and I'm calling the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Chris, would you mind doing a roll call, please?
Hall, Ms. Bouchard,
Present.
Mr. Goldman,
Present.
via Zoom, remotely.
Yes.
Due to extenuating circumstances.
Yes, under our remote meetings policy, Mr. Goldman meets the criteria for public participation and voting.
Ms. Olson,
Present.
Mr. Boggs,
Present.
Ms. Weatherby.
Present.
Thank you.
Wonderful. We have up first the approval of the meeting agenda. Are there any additions or corrections?
Yeah, I'd like to add an agenda item to appoint somebody to the committee for what's the name of the committee, Caitlin?
Comp plan.
Comprehensive Plan
Steering.
Steering
You
Committee.
got it. We will add that at the end of old business. So that will become item G. Are there any other additions or corrections?
I have a
Hearing.
request for Carissa. Could you change on Zoom, can you change to get my name on there instead of Richard's iPhone?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, so we are moving on to a public hearing. Holding a public hearing on a local law repealing and replacing chapter 80 of the town code entitled Construction Codes Uniform. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
Move to open the public hearing.
Second, wonderful. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are in a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to address us on the local law repealing and replacing chapter 80 of the town code on construction codes uniform? This is to keep us in alignment with the new state changes on building code. So that is our job, to repeal and replace. But if there's anyone in the public who wishes to address us on this, now is a great time. We have no one in person, so is there anybody online who does? Linda is jumping up and down, let the record show. I'm joking. Linda is not jumping up and down with enthusiasm to discuss this. Okay, we'll give it another little bit. See if anybody rapidly comes forward. And we have, for the public's edification, if you're viewing this later, we received no written comments either on this change. This is a change that New York State Building Code is what we are required to use, and we're just getting ourselves in alignment. This happens every couple of years. Okay, well, I hear nobody else clamoring to speak to us on this topic, so accept a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. Moving on, privilege of the floor. Is there anybody? Again, nobody is present in person, but is there anybody online who wishes to address the board on any subject for 3 minutes or less? There'll be a second public privilege of the floor at the end of the meeting as well. Linda again is not clamoring. Okay, then we can move on. Thank you so much. So if the board is amenable, would it be okay if we pull up a few items to discuss them first while Michelle is here, so we can?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So the items that I'm looking forward to bringing forward are the gatekeeper resolution for IT CTC, so D, E, and F of old business, A, B of new business, and number 9, budget modifications. These are all Michelle related items. So the gatekeeper resolution, it is on page 2 of the agenda packet. The gatekeeper resolution refers to something I brought up at the previous town board meeting related to the Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council has federal money available that they are required to share with entities underneath their purview as part of the federal requirements. It's a percentage of their budget that they're given by the feds. And we currently have enthusiasm among state and village and the ITCTC, it's a hard acronym for me personally, to look at planning and possibly even the design of the extension route that would connect the existing Black Diamond Trail that currently terminates at Taganic State Park with the village. And then there's potential for long-term development to eventually connect it to the current Camp Barton when the state acquires it, but that's probably realistically 10 plus years out. I don't see that happening immediately, but the next logical connection point would be into the village. Basically, they have not officially approved it, but we've been informed. I think informally would be an okay way to, in discussions, that they have approximately 18,000 available for the proposed funding and grant funds. And I'm requesting up to an additional 8,000 in funding as a grant match if the project requires it. What I'm hoping we can do is develop an RFP, a 2-phased RFP. One is what are the reasonable possible routes that route could take. And number one, and number two, could we actually get to the point where we could go after funding, not just for the possible route. What I'm hoping to do is do it this in 2 funding phases. One, get the materials we need to actually go to the state and say we're ready to proceed with money, looking for money to actually do construction, because there is the state does have easements already in place over a lot of what constitutes a connection route. And we might be able to, depending on the price point of the planning documents, we might actually be able to consolidate planning a route plus getting some design built into that. So that's why we've requested some additional money. The other part is we've had some soft cost estimates in terms of putting together what the plan is, but no one will give us hard, firm costs without an RFP. So we're trying to build in some flexibility. Michelle, did I explain that correctly?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe I'll just say something that you might have touched upon a little bit, but our goal with the product for this work is that we're ready to apply with some concrete numbers if possible for the design and construction phase. So, and that would be, yeah, the goal would be to try to do that for this coming CFA round. If everything lines up the way it needs to.
And we might not be able to get documents in place. We might not be able to have sufficient public input. It depends on how quickly things can be turned around, and how many viable alternate routes there are.
So it's the 18. Oh, do we need to move this first?
We can discuss it now.
Okay. So is this for developing the plan?
18, yes.
Okay, so it's just for design development kind of thing.
Right. So the idea being that it would be more expensive for us, most likely, unless we went with the exact same firm spread over a period of time. It's more expensive to break out it into 3 phases. The first phase being a planning phase, the second phase being a design phase. So first phase would be route design, trying to actually determine where reasonably the route could go. Number 2 would be the actual design phase. And
is that included in this?
Well, right now, that's why I'm asking for the 8,000, because I want to do an RFP that has two phases. One being, can you get us this work? How much are you bidding on it for this phase? And phase two, how much are you bidding to do the design document so we can take to state then for funding?
Mhm.
Because that's, and I'm trying to, I would like to incentivize a firm to see value in getting to do both of those things. Because if we parse them out, I think it's going to, if we do it à la carte, I think it's going to be more expensive.
So the third phase would be applying for the
CFA.
consolidated funding, okay.
Yep.
Okay,
And when is the timing for that CFA?
CFA is doing July, is that right? Usually?
Yeah, usually the end of July, beginning August, but there are a couple, this is a sector of funding that we haven't really gone for in the recent history, so need to brush up on, but my guess would be end of July. So
The
there's
state
some,
was very supportive of us moving as fast as is reasonable. Obviously, we don't want to jump too fast over public input. We don't want to jump too fast over being ready to do it. But the state is in one of those unique positions that they have money and they're interested in funding this type of activity. And there's a lot of momentum on the Black Diamond Trail in the southern part. So they were hoping that we could take advantage of that momentum and be part of that process, as opposed to, because this has been in discussion, the initial session of this started apparently in like 2003. And so it's been sitting, and then we obviously had there was a master plan in 2008 where this shows up for the Black Diamond Trail. But it's been a long process, and what we're hearing from the state is now's a good time to be asking for money for these kinds of projects. So
is this a Michelle project?
this would be hiring a consultant and doing a lot. I mean, the design and the planning part would all be done by
No, but I mean
consultants.
applying for the,
This, and so at the CFA, we've allocated some money for grants. And so it's gonna be, I think, what I've seen is it's good for us to have our fingers in it, but I don't want us to be so sidetracked that that's the only thing we're working on. So that's why we built in the grant
Yeah,
money into
as you
the,
get staffed up. you'll-
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So. Yes, Michelle and I involved, but no, probably not
I
doing the
just didn't
complete
want to
list.
overload her,
No,
not that
absolutely.
she vote or anything.
No.
Yeah.
No, I concur. So, Michelle, tell me where this money, we have actually money in an allocated fund that we could use actually to do this grant match. Is that correct,
Correct.
Michelle?
yep, this is part of what we call assigned funds. It's in the A fund. It's these reserves that are earmarked via resolution, but don't have the technical legal status that reserves do. So, and
this
it's,
money was for originally, and this fund was originally intended for the Black Diamond Trail. Is that correct?
the origin of this assigned fund was specific to Black Diamond Trail related activities. And it's been sitting there for a long time because there hasn't been a lot of activity with the Black Diamond Trail. So there's just about $24,000 in it right now.
So you're proposing 8 of that 24 to be matched if needed.
If needed. And so, but there wouldn't be a commitment until we actually, and that's why I want to do a 2-phase RFP consolidated into the same RFP, because it might realistically be that the RFP could come back at $45,000 and we're like, we're not feeling comfortable doing that at this juncture. So this would, but this would give us some flexibility, but it also doesn't bind the board. We will obviously, the board would get to decide whether or not we are going to pursue the first phase or both phases together. But at this point, we just don't have good enough numbers and nobody's willing to give us good enough numbers because they don't have a possible route. So
I think with a well-defined RFP, knowing where we're at with it all, that we can, knowing what the goal that we're going towards, we can design a RFP that will meet our needs within budget is the hope.
but we will not spend any of the town's money without having come back and seen what we're proposing. So we just want to be able to tell IT, CTC that we're committed on paper to doing this and fulfilling the town's gatekeeper responsibilities.
All right, so we haven't moved it yet. So
No, we
moved.
haven't. Okay,
Second.
Any further
There you have
discussion?
The question on line 66,
Yes,
should that say to IT CTC for funding? At the end of the sentence, end of the line.
authorize the town to submit an application to ITCTC for funding. Yes. Those should be switched. Thank you. Oh, no, it's for
For
funding.
funding, for design,
Yes.
for.
Four. We need another,
Yeah.
we need a 4 was missing. We need 2 4s. Thank you. You are correct. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then a repeat, but with different numbers. From last month or last meeting, an unappropriated fund balance investment on the treasury ladder. Finance committee looked again at, so last month we invested $1 million in the treasury ladder. Or I'm sorry, not last month, last meeting, on the 10th, the town board authorized me to do that. That has been done. And now the finance committee is seeing we have additional money that is sitting, languishing, and could be making more interest in a pretty secure, safe location. So they're proposing an additional $250,000 to go into that. Michelle, Rich, Mary, is there anything?
Yeah, it's not pretty secure, Caitlin. It's totally secure.
The
I
invest,
don't-
yes,
I just don't want to give the public the impression that there's any risk in this.
I think you're absolutely right. The only risk is if we pull out and we don't get as much interest as we anticipated. But-
Right.
but the
It'll-
balance-
it'll- it'll be
Otherwise,
more- Yeah,
Right,
So,
exactly. So highly liquid. Is there a motion to approve? Then we can discuss.
so moved.
Second,
Second,
okay.
any discussion or questions?
another question on the wording on line 72. This might be a semantics issue. Are we recognizing the
You're-
investment because you have the authority?
The policy actually doesn't let me do this.
My numbers.
The policy does
So-
allow me to do this.
Right, but are we authorizing?
You're not
Recog-
authorizing.
We're
me.
recognizing.
You're recognizing
Okay.
because this supervisor wants to cover her derriere in the public record. That I was not just, moving $1.25 million
Mhm.
around of the town's money, so.
Okay,
While the policy does let me do that, it makes it very clean and clear when somebody comes back 10 years later and said, what did the town board do? And it'd be like, yes, so it in fact is recognizing the
Okay,
investment.
thank you.
So. Okay, any further discussion? Get a first and a second, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And the next item up is next in line on the resolution list. Documenting the use of the American Rescue Plan 2022 funds. We've already paid for this, we've already approved this. But we are just, and we did I think we documented something last meeting also. But this is just putting it very clearly on the record, how we have already allocated and spent these funds. So this is for the Anoid bag replacement that contributed, that went towards improving the Water District 3 tank. Any questions about this? It literally is just documentation. So if there's a motion to accept or a motion to move it,
So moved.
second,
Second,
any further discussion on this one?
just want to say thank you from District 3.
We are happy for District 3 to have, because the original intention of these ARPA funds actually was water, sewer, and broadband. So. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. And then we're gonna hop into new business. These are where we're doing the next 3 items that we're gonna talk about are related to closing out 2022 books. So the first item under new business is recognizing the interfund loan from the A fund balance to the capital fund HB across financial years. Michelle, would you mind talking to us about this one?
Sure. So, board members who have been on the town board since 2019 will recognize this. This is basically the town doing their best with the situation that we don't have a lot of ability to do anything about at this point. So the comptroller likes short-term interfund loans to be short-term within a financial year. But we have, for the past couple of years, needed to extend this loan because New York State Department of Transportation owes us money. And in order to completely pay back this loan, we need to get paid back from New York State DOT. And we're, working on through our toolkit of how to try to make that happen. It's just an administrative backlog jam on their end. And we've been in communication with them, and we get the same answer routinely, that there's some administrative something on their end. It's nothing that we have done. So this is just us saying, hey, dear auditors, we know that this is happening. It's not ideal, but we're doing our best on this one. So.
So does anybody have any other questions on that? And do you have a friend at DOT beyond the director who I've been working with to? Right, I just like the money.
I'll ask them at AOT.
Sounds good.
They'll have a table.
Yeah, please do. The town would like our money for administering the grant for a bridge that we do not own or are responsible for in our. So please just give us our money back.
We're not getting penalized for not paying them.
Well, we paid for everything.
Yeah.
We just like to get our money back.
Okay.
We're just like, we'd like the
It was
money
a-
we're owed.
We
Borrowed money from
There was
ourselves.
a
Yes.
Oh, okay.
95% funded.
Okay.
Yeah,
This was just money that,
yeah.
so we
But
get paid
How
for
much
it.
money are we talking about?
The HB fund, which is the capital fund that was started because we were getting grant money. The cleanest way to do it as far as bookkeeping goes is just have it in a separate bank account. And so it's 300,000 that the HB fund owes. And honestly, this is really just about bookkeeping entries at this point. To keep that money in that bank account, knowing that we still have some grant funds, is really just the cleanest way to do it for the bookkeeping purposes. So.
How much state owes?
How much does this state owe? I want to say it's like 30,000. Let me pull it up. Sorry, I didn't have that handy.
Do we need to get our legislators involved in this?
I don't think so. At this point, I would feel a little differently if it was more, but the lesson to learn here, they're notorious for this. Pretty much, if anybody's ever gotten a Bridge New York grant, to minimize the last payment request. And I thought I did minimize it pretty well, but I think next time we have a Bridge New York grant, we'll minimize the last payment even more so, because it's just like the closeout process, dotting the T's and crossing the I's or whatever. But let me tell you how much they owe us. Sorry, 1 second. This is going to take me just 60 seconds to bring up.
Much
I
$1
don't
million.
need to know the exact number.
Oh, okay, all right.
Well,
It's not a lot.
that vicinity. Yeah, no, it would just be nice to have it done because we finished in April and we'd like to,
Was it April of 22 we finished it? I lost track of time.
yeah.
I
Cause
was surprised when it was 3 years that we've been into it.
well, I wasn't even on the board. I remember being as part of the planning. I was on planning committee when they were doing the public and input sessions, and your design was actually affordable. It was wonderful.
Did you go with us, Carissa, when we went down to the county highway and interviewed no, I think Michelle was there.
I wasn't actually. I was there for when they were onboarded. Yeah, B&L had been chosen already.
Might have been Nina then.
Yeah.
Liz Thomas
Yeah.
and Nina. So I thought there was 4 of us.
Well, we're out two supervisors later.
Yeah.
We would like to close.
Yeah, when I read
like to
this, I
close
was,
it
what?
down.
I said 3 years plus this year?
Yeah,
So it was really surprised me.
yep. So we're just ready to be done.
And
but-
honestly, that project went so relatively smoothly. This is the biggest bump that we've had in it. And, the state's good for it. It's just on our books. And so this is just perfunctory and, it's just a way for us to say, yes, we've got our eye on this and,
Did we move?
We're doing our
I-
best.
I actually would say it's 30 grand. I mean, it's not nothing.
Right.
So
No.
I would put
We're
a
gonna get
date. Yeah, I would
We're
put a
gonna get
date.
it.
I'm sure my suggestion is we put a date on it, like 3 months from now, or some number that if we don't get it, then we involve Anna and Omara to go to bat for us or do something.
Yep, I would like to make sure that our current Bridge New York applications are not penalized
First, yeah.
before we throw some political weight around, but I agree with you very much.
That's the fun that we're going after. Prairie Road, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, we just approved, we did a gatekeeper resolution at the last meeting
Yep.
for Bridge New York money, so.
You use that on your way to?
Oh, I use it every day.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it's personal now.
Okay, so, I don't think we have a moved or a second on
No,
this
I
one.
don't.
Is there anyone willing to move this?
Moved as presented.
Second,
Second.
any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
All right,
Aye. Thank you. And then the second to last item for Michelle, while she's here, is to look at Water District 3 Reserve Edition. The Reserve Edition that was in the 2022 budget was earmarked for $21,998. Michelle, as budget officer, is recommending an even 22,000 to the reserve. And so this is be closing out. This is all part. This is first off, this will be closing out part of the closeout process. And this is part of our ongoing strategy to try and build up the capital reserves of Water District 3. So that as future maintenance needs and issues are there, that we actually have some flexibility to be responsive. Michelle, what am I missing in that? Is there anything?
Just some really dry detail about the fact that back in, I think it was April, we did a budget modification when we thought we were going to have to reduce the amount that we were adding to this reserve because that software that emergency purchased in Water District 3. So in order to ensure that our budget was going to be working at the end of the year, we decided to do a budget modification that reduced the amount that we were going to add to this reserve. We no longer have to do that because of the way that the year is shaking out. 2022 had some underspending in Water District 3, so we're in good shape with that. We thought we were going to have to use contingency essentially. So good shape. This is good news for Water District 3. I'm happy that we're in this position. So.
We can do further discussion. Is there someone willing to move it right now?
move as presented.
Any further questions or comments on this?
I do have
Okay.
one thing. I don't know what line it is on your end, but there was the version that was online. The resolution had an internal note in there that probably has since gotten removed, but just in case.
It's removed, yep,
Okay, great.
yep. It is not there and the blanks have been filled in to 22,000. So, and it sounds like there's no further discussion, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And then finally, we only have budget modifications for 2022 at this juncture. So in your board packet, this was made available today. We have a physical copy to look at, and we can go through. Michelle, would you like to walk us through a little bit?
Sure. I think for the most part, there isn't anything here that's out of the ordinary. It's because of our technique of budgeting sort of to the exact amount that we think we're going to be using in those lines. Of course, that's our best guess at the time of the budget making process. So there's nothing super significant that I see here that is like, oh, well, this happened that was totally unexpected, you know. So just starting off with the first one there, there's always some goofy rounding errors that happen, you know, between the budget worksheet we use at the at the budget making level, and then, you know, goes into paychecks, and then it gets printed on the paychecks, and then goes into our accounting system. So there's goofy rounding here and there. That next one there, we overspent in the town hall CE, almost to the tune of how much it cost to do to run electricity to the back of the door last year. So that's essentially, that was an unplanned project that we, you know, we could have used contingency for it, but because of the underrunning and the other lines, we didn't need to use contingency for it. There's also some,
Nope, Michelle, just a sec, Mary had a question.
What
Sure.
was that for? Electricity to the back door?
we need that in preparation for when the ADA door will be installed back there. We need electricity. That was one of the hitches in the giddy up of that whole process.
Justice grant, I thought.
Yeah, so last year, because we couldn't find a contractor or it wasn't last year, it was the year, it was 20, you know, I'm saying last year, like 2020. Yeah. So because we couldn't find 2021, we couldn't find a contractor to install the ADA grant in the time frame that was needed on the justice court side of things. So the ADA door is actually in the 2023 budget, in the capital plan for 2023 and in this year's budget. So yeah, just a couple other cost overruns based on just the general cost of increase of things. And then also there were some ongoing HVAC system issues that were happening in the spring and summer that cost us a little bit more, but that has since, when we didn't budget for that in 2022, but we did in 2023. Moving along to budget modification 3, that's for repair that was required for overhead door in the fall. So
For the highway barn.
Yep.
The reason I'm saying that, Michelle, when you're doing it, would you mind just so the public understands, well, because they don't have this in front of them?
Oh, sure. Do you want me to do a screen share?
That
Yeah,
would be great. Yep, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, hang on 1 second.
Can you also send this to me, Michelle? You don't have to do it right now.
Sure, yeah. Sorry, this is just going to take me 1 second to bring up because I'm connected to the server and it's just a little slow. Almost there, everyone. Okay. Alrighty. I'll zoom out a little bit. So here's the rounding things that we saw. And then the town hall CE budget modifications. The town barn CE that we saw here. And then this next one, budget modification for the sidewalk CE, we actually are paying in 2022, we paid for 2021. And then recognizing that when that came during the year, we had already closed out 2021 when we got that bill. So we asked the village to try to expedite that before we had to close out this year. And so they got this, so it's 2 years that we're paying in 2022.
Because in 2022, in February, we received the bill for 2021 from the village for clearing our sidewalks. And I was very appreciative to Tammy and Vicky for kind of bending over backwards to help us get the bill for 2022 before the vouchers that we paid. And so we've already paid that. So we got hit in 1 year with both bills, but it's not because, we're now trying to hopefully be on the cycle of we're paying for the previous year within that year's budget. So for this 1 year, we got hit twice essentially, but we didn't actually have an extra bill. Okay, so that sidewalk.
Yep.
And then going on to number 5.
Yeah, this is a small one. There was a unplanned community or unbudgeted expenses for a community event that I believe was actually offset with in 2021 with grant funds from Tompkins County, if I'm remembering correctly. This next one is related to the B fund attorney line. Caitlin, do you wanna?
Yep, so we, the town has, and as I informed the board before, creating the legal documentation for Camp Barton took more money out of the, took $1,200 more, basically. More in legal fees, which is not that many hours actually, so I'm feeling not too bad about it. But because it's a B fund only activity, it came out of the B fund. And so I spent more in that line. But that was really related to Camp Barton. So getting the legal LDC documents, of which we are looking very likely to be able to bring to you for review at our next town board meeting. So. But yeah, that's solely related to legal fees with Barton. I'm getting that paperwork in order. But we had contingency to back that up, so.
And as far as our end of year contingency plan during the 2023 budget making process, we our end of year estimate was $5,000 out of contingency, so we're underspending just because that's how we have to do it for emergency purposes. But and then Water District 1 here, these water purchases are offset by the metered water sales. So this is just we're increasing the expense, but we're also increasing the revenue. That amount, because you can't close out the year with any negatives, so you have to do this sort of bookkeeper cleanup work.
Michael had a question.
Should it be increase, decrease?
No, because we're increasing the expense and also increasing the revenue to offset it. Like the one before it, it's increase, decrease. This B fund one is increase and decrease because we're decreasing this expense account. And shuffling the money over to another expense account. But if it's expense revenue, they offset each other. So it's increase.
Right, I mean, realistically, if we were legally allowed to do it, we spent less in the A fund for attorneys. Or attorney time than we had budgeted, but we can't move the A fund into the B fund to pay for the attorney. But that's why it's coming out of a different place. But you're talking, Michelle, are you talking about, have we moved on to Water District 3 or were you just finishing up Water District 1?
Did that answer your question, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the first Water District 3 one is, per resolution, we're just moving this money to close out the year from contingency, and that was all part of the plan. And then in the second budget modification here, much like the this is just offsetting like we did before, increasing expenses and increasing revenue. And then there's just a little bit of the way that the math works out is that we need to take a little bit more from the water purchase to offset the water purchases loss to offset the full amount that's needed for that SW3 8320.4 water purchases CE. Fine.
So did anybody have any questions? So right now we're looking to sell before I ask you a question, and I'm not giving you time to do it. But before I say this, we are anticipating this is our last round of budget modifications for 2022. Is that correct?
Correct. Unless it'd be surprising to me if we had another round. Yeah, but this should be it. This should close out the year.
So now I will actually legitimately ask you, does anybody have any questions about these movements of money to balance everything out? Thank you, Michelle, for walking us through it.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we do have a resolution. It's the final resolution in the packet to approve the 2022 budget modifications as presented. Is someone willing to move that?
Motion to approve as presented?
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Michelle, have a lovely rest of your evening. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Now we can go back and talk about some potential local laws. So going back to old business, item A would be, first resolution in your packet would be first, no, I'm sorry, well, it's technically your second resolution in your packet. Approving the agenda was the first. We are looking at we discussed it very briefly. It's a senior tax exemption. It's actually in the resolution. It doesn't have the full title. I'm sorry, in the agenda packet, it doesn't have the full title. In the resolution, it has the full title. Be looking at scheduling a public hearing on a local law amending chapter 174 of the town code to authorize a property tax exemption for senior and disabled citizens under section 467 of New York State real property law. We already do have an exemption on the books, but we have been presented, New York State has increased the amounts and increased eligibility. And so the draft before you, and I'm hoping Nate can weigh in on this also. The draft before you would be something we could take to a public hearing next meeting. We need to, if we want to adopt and have it impact the 2024 property taxes, we have to move expeditiously and have everything legally taken care of before the end of February. So Nate, would you mind telling us a little bit more about this exemption?
No, I mean, I think that you nailed it largely, that the this particular exemption did have an increase in the maximum amount, and this certainly is reflected in that schedule. Caitlin, I did, I think when I emailed you with the draft earlier today, include a link to the tax and finance, or excuse me, the assessor kind of guidance on it, which does highlight some additional things that you could potentially choose to do or not do. But, you know, for purposes of trying to get this adopted like soon, I think that this is certainly the right thing to do.
So does anybody at the last meeting, I came away with the impression the town board was interested in moving along with other municipalities and in adopting, or at least considering adopting this exemption. So do you have any, you don't have to decide to adopt it tonight. I know you were just presented with it. But do you feel comfortable at least scheduling a public hearing on it for the next town board meeting?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Is this different than we already have?
So they basically, it's increased eligibility for, it's broadened who qualifies, because in large measure, Nate, would I be correct in understanding this? This is largely a reflection of inflation, that these are periodically updated by New York State and to try and deal with changing inflation rates and values, so that you can, so somebody who qualifies can make more money than they previously could, because it obviously costs more to live. And Nate, is that an accurate?
Yeah, I do think that's accurate, because when you see, when you actually look at the statute itself, you can see from when they initially adopted it through a good 5-10 years, they regularly increased those levels, and it's been a while since they have. So it's not surprising that they did it again.
So you have to have income below a certain level. and
Yes.
those
It's an
income
income
Yeah,
levels
so
are-
social security is going up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, threshold's really low.
Yeah.
So it's really this
50,
exemption.
45,000.
Yeah. That's really what we're looking at. Yep.
Okay,
Okay, so,
as presented,
okay, so we will schedule then, so the resolution is having us having a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, February 14th. We could be showing a little love to our to our constituents. And yep, so we have a motion to approve a public hearing. Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the town board, it'll be on the agenda to discuss actually adopting it. So if when you're reading through it, you have questions, let me know. I can get answers for you. And then we can have a more of a discussion on it as desired on the 14th. Okay, thank you. The next item up is in a similar vein is a local law proposal for a property tax exemption for volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers who live in the town of Ulysses. And so this, when we looked at it, I think we were looking at it, it would be an exemption of it would have a fiscal impact of approximately 73 cents. Is what what Jay, who does our county assessor, his calculations, that would be the approximate cost to our average property owner of a median owned property, who is not a volunteer firefighter or EMS worker. So we are not anticipating it will have a sizable impact. It will, it does not, the volunteer has to have a minimum of 2 years of service in order to qualify. And so there's a list of the things that somebody has to meet in order to do it. But they would be entitled to a 10% reduction in the taxable value of their primary residence for town tax purposes. And so this could be a volunteer who volunteers for our local company or who volunteers for Hector or any other municipality. But this would not, volunteers in our local company who don't live in the town of Ulysses would not be impacted by this unless their own townships adopted as well. So, again, this is another one that you have time to read and review. I'm sorry, Rich, do you have a question?
No, so I was just saying, we don't have, the ambulance are all paid, right? We don't have, do we have any volunteer ambulance people?
So because we have a municipal ambulance crew, they are a paid ambulance crew, but if we had somebody who serves as a volunteer EMT and lives in Ulysses and is serving an ambulance crew outside of Ulysses, they would still qualify for it. Percentage wise, I would anticipate that's not many properties, if any, but yes, they would still qualify even if they are volunteering for a different ambulance crew.
Just volunteering. so
Just volunteering,
paying
not, yeah,
or-
yeah. If you are employed as an EMT or a firefighter, that you don't qualify for this. This is all volunteer. This is recognition basically of people who are doing it as a volunteer. So for tonight, we'd be simply, again, scheduling a public hearing. Again, it would be for 7 p.m. And yes, I know you can't run two at the same time, but you are allowed to start later. You are not allowed to start earlier. So we would do one then the other. Nate, am I
moved.
allowed to do that, to schedule two for the same time? I thought so.
I usually say do one at 7 o'clock and then the other one at 7:01. Because
Okay,
if
I can do that.
sometimes the public doesn't show up to the meet or to the public hearings. And so you would wait for that minute.
Okay, so I would propose amending the resolution to start the public hearing for the volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers to 7:01 p.m. On February 14th at our regular meeting.
Okay, so, all right, so move scheduling the public hearing.
Excellent,
That
Second.
is the amended.
wonderful, thank you. Second,
resolution.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
One quick other item on
Sure.
on the last resolution
Yes,
on line 20, the and in are backwards.
I'm sorry, in line 20.
Line
Okay,
20. It said hearing the in Ithaca Journal.
In the, okay,
In the, yeah.
well, I have a feeling that our resolution from last, the 10th was also incorrect. Because
What's
it
that?
was a copy and paste.
Oh, the end, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
I wonder if we did, if we did a look back, how many resolutions had that discrepancy? Nate, is that going, do we need to go back and amend and vote on those for the
That's for
switching of
this.
in and the?
I, sure, why not? But I don't, that doesn't sound substantive.
Well, then,
An attorney wouldn't care, wouldn't hold up in court.
okay, well, we're gonna live dangerously if you guys are okay with it and
That's
leave those
fine.
standing. But I will catch that in future version. Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate that. No, thank you for bringing it to my attention. Those are the things you just don't see. And I was not the only person who read them, but I will take full blame for that schism. Okay, thank you so much. So moving on, so this will be moving on to the next item, which is the actual local law repealing and replacing chapter 80 of the town code entitled Construction Codes Uniform. So I did not print out you another copy of this because it's many
Yes.
pages. And it did not, based on the comments from last board meeting, it did not sound like anybody was concerned about that. But before I asked for a motion, did anybody have any questions about it? About the process?
It's all just boilerplate,
It's
right?
all boilerplate. The
Yeah.
state's telling us what we need to do,
Sure.
right, Nate?
Yep.
And then
So-
we'll immediately.
Motion.
Second,
Nate, that's a great question. So did you move it, Rich? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, Nate, will this go into immediate effect or is this open for passive referendum?
It would be immediate.
Immediate, okay. Okay, we have we held the public hearing, we duly noticed it, said public hearing. We tried to accept comments that apparently nobody wanted to share with us, but that's okay. So we have a motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Excellent. Well, we are cooking with gas at this point, which,
just need to submit this to the code. What's that called?
E-code,
E-code, thank you.
yep. And we have to file it with the state also.
Yep, we'll do.
Yep, thank you so much. And I forwarded you the version that Nate's thing. Okay. So moving on, I want to do a shout out thanking both Michael and Liz for doing the audit of the justice courts. This resolution is on page 3 of your resolution packet. You guys, I appreciate it that you completed it. Our court clerk was appreciative of your questions. She shared that with me. And it was completed on January 11th, 2023. And this resolution is recognizing that internal audit was completed, and that a certified copy of the resolution, along with the results, will be submitted to the New York State Office of Court Administration.
So moved.
Second, wonderful. Second,
second,
any discussion?
I just wanted to say thank you to Angie. She did a nice job and she had really all of her records in order and it was frankly very easy, but you know,
She was very organized.
Yeah.
For a first
She is.
timer. Who was walking into it with expectations of what to expect. It
Yep.
was very easy and smooth and she
Yeah,
was
it was
very
nice.
helpful in explaining things.
And I can tell you, while not throwing any other municipalities under the bus, not every municipality court functions that way, so I am
yeah,
ongoingly
I've heard other
grateful.
stories as well,
Yes.
but yeah, so thankful that we have Angie here.
Yeah. And when she arrived, it was not like that. And I know that it's, you know, it's been an evolution of a process, but I'm very grateful for that. So thank you so much. Is there any other further discussion on that? Okay, we had a first and a second, so all those in favor?
All right,
Aye. I will pass along your compliments. Thank you very much. Okay.
Oh.
So the next item up is, as I think you will very much remember, in the budgeting process. Although Liz, you may not have delved this far into the weeds on the budgeting process. We have, so this resolution, it's the next resolution in your packet on page 3. It's a resolution on an appointment of an alternate clerk for the planning board and board of zoning appeals. So, Lou has been the clerk for, in previous years, has been the clerk for the Board of Zoning Appeals. And last fall, when we were putting together the budget, our plan was to have and we allocated the funding for the project assistant position that we're currently doing we've done the interviewing for, we're doing reference checks right now. For the project assistant, but we have clerking responsibilities. And so, and Lou has indicated he is interested in continuing periodically to clerk for us. And we thought at this point, it made really good sense to designate him as an alternate. The pay rate is identical to 2022. And he did clerk for us on January 18th. So I'm very much hopeful that you will at least approve paying him through for that meeting. But because we need to have a clerk, and he can do it on an alternate basis. This is not depleting any resources because we budgeted for the planning assistant or the project assistant for all of 2023, but have not yet drawn down on that money. So because we haven't filled that position. So we have the resources to pay for it without any financial impact to the budget. And so Lou does a great job. And so I think it would be helpful for us to let him continue to do that as we need him to, and have then a backup in case somebody is sick. Or
So moved.
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. Okay. And that brings us to, we are, I received, an email from Mr. Wordis, who, is currently serving as our town historian. I received an email last week, indicating his interest in beginning a transition process, out of a town board service, or not town board service, historian service. And Mr. Wordis has been a very good historian, and I've been very grateful for how much time, energy, and effort he has put into the town. And I'm also grateful for his willingness to participate in the search for a new town historian. And so at this juncture, I think it makes sense for us to engage in a process of outreach and search for a new town historian. Mr. Wordis, I'm grateful that he's willing to be involved in that process. That would make the transition much easier to have him involved. And for the board is already aware of this, but for the public who may be watching either currently or in the future, the appointment is a supervisor's appointment. But as with much of what we do in the town, I don't want this to be a me picking kind of thing. I would like there to be feedback. I'd like there to be others reviewing applications and things like that and helping with outreach. So I was wondering if there was anybody else who would like to participate on the board in participating in a process of fulfilling our DEI responsibilities of really doing substantive outreach into the community, to see if we can attract another town historian who's interested in our local history. So is there anybody else who is, Mary, I can hear you saying, I can hear. So I know Mary might be feeling a little overwhelmed. So I wasn't trying to throw it to you, but I wanted to see if anybody else was interested in participating.
It's like a search committee or?
Yeah, and basically to review applications and
Yeah.
talk to people. I would love to, that would be wonderful, Michael. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys have already done a lot of. First time I haven't seen Mary like.
It was those bees buzzing.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Well, that's gonna be, it's gonna
Hey,
be.
you
a
got
big
tax
thing
season
to
coming up.
be- Yeah. So,
Well, Michael, I really appreciate
Yeah.
that, and we can talk about
Okay,
doing that, but I know I'm very committed to doing a substantial outreach and education and looking for an inclusive process to find the
Sure,
next
thank you.
great person. So, but I would like to, and we will do official recognition of Mr. Wordus and his services when that transition happens, but he certainly has been very much appreciated for the efforts he has put on on behalf of the town and the yeoman's work he's done in the historian's role. So I am personally grateful, and I think I speak for the town board when I say that as well, so.
Yeah.
Excellent. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to that discussion? I'm not trying to shortchange anybody, but we can certainly have some conversations and bring more information back to the
Mhm.
board, and
Yeah, thank you.
so awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. And then that brings us to an appreciation of service for a different individual who happens to be on our call. But I wanted to acknowledge and show our appreciation for Roxanne Marino for serving on the town board for a good chunk of 2022 and for her ongoing service on several town committees. And so there's a resolution presented in your packet. And I would be happy to read it unless somebody else wants to read it.
Want me to read it?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Whereas a vacancy on the town board beginning in January 1, 2022 resulted in the appointment of Roxanne Marino for approximately 10 months as a town board member. And whereas the town is grateful to Dr. Marino for her service to the town in 2022 and appreciates her ongoing service in several town committees. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board extends its appreciation to Roxanne Marino for her past and current services and contributions to the town of Ulysses.
Be happy to,
Yep.
you wanna go right ahead, Mary? I can hear it.
Move this motion.
Wonderful.
Second,
Third,
Yes,
thank you, Roxanne.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
thanks,
All those in
Roxanne.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so you will get to see what we do, which is, I believe we can send a copy, right? Krista, and I can help with that. And we will send you a copy of the resolution. We thank you very much. Okay, and that brings us to upcoming events. We have,
Comp plan.
So Caitlin,
I'm sorry. Yeah. We skipped Rich. I'm so sorry, Rich. Going back to Rich.
not a problem. So I'd like to move that we appoint Ann DePetta as the chair of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee throughout its term.
So I would second that. Rich and the Neils and I had a very wonderful conversation. She's actually already appointed on the committee itself. She brings a lot of facilitation experience, which I think is going to be very, very important for this particular group to ensure our goals of creating opportunities for equity of participation and balancing different viewpoints, because I have a feeling that not everybody in the town when participating is going to be in 100% agreement with each other. And so having someone who has a lot of facilitation experience and who is comfortable in a facilitator role, and that's really what we're looking for was a facilitator. We had a very good conversation. So I'm going to second that motion. Is there any further discussion?
How big's the committee now?
We have right now we have there are 5 of us. Yes, there are 5 of us currently on it. We have room for 1 or 2 more at-large community members. What we really need and what we're outreaching for is we need ag representation and we need business representation. Those are the slots that we identified when we put the steering committee framework together. as the positions. So if you have, please encourage more people to participate. Those are really what the town board identified as positions we want represented, and that's who we're missing right now. So
Has the chamber been approached at all?
it's gone out to their list. And I've had some very tentative conversations. I think part of the problem is the people who are involved actively on the chamber board are not necessarily the right people to serve on the comprehensive plan committee, because they're already actively involved. And so we will continue that outreach. We're continuing that those conversations, but continuing to share with your networks would be really helpful. It's continuing to be in the newsletter. And that's really, having that balance would be wonderful.
Yeah, I
So-
think we had some potential for volunteers for the ag groups when we had that meeting.
Yeah.
So we have to follow up with them now.
Yeah.
Keep those discussions going.
I know that Neil sent a thank you, but I think
Yes.
you guys all received.
Yep.
Or you should have. And we can do another blast to that list to see you. But if there's anybody that
So you're
that
the
you
board-
had conversations
you're
with,
the board rep?
Yeah.
So one board rep.
so I'm currently the rep, and she's the alternate.
Oh, okay, alternate.
Yep. For this year, and that obviously gets, it's always in flux. For future years, but for this year, that's how it is. And as you're selling it to people, this is one of those committees that. We have the ability to have it as I want to have it recorded and publicly, I want it publicly accessible for the public to be able to attend the meetings. Either in person or remotely, but committee members can attend remotely as they need to, because it is advisory. And so it doesn't, so if that is what's stopping somebody from serving, is having to physically be present, that's not a deal breaker for this particular committee. So,
Will
so
we have a hired firm working on this?
not yet, no, we have been made aware that we got the grant money, but we have not, and we have an outreach to the granting agency about triggering the process, but we haven't yet. They have not yet responded about how to actually, please give us
Yeah.
so please let us go forward and sign a contract with you so we can actually do the RFP.
That was the grant that Roxanne got?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, she found the DEC grant, Michelle and Roxanne worked together on it, Michelle submitted it. Yeah, it was a definitely a wonderful team endeavor. And yeah, they'll give us the opportunity to do that, but we haven't signed the contracts or anything like that. You'll see those contracts obviously before they get signed.
Mhm.
But hopefully that will come sooner rather than later, but we do have.
So we should have people see you?
They can talk to
So
me.
you-
And part of the reason now that we have a chair is that the plan for the comp plan steering committee is while those ducks are getting in a row with actually getting contracts executed through New York State and actually going after developing an RFP and all that, is that the first step is pulling the committee together. And now that we have a chair, we can do that in a more substantive way. And then the steering committee will be looking at developing a public participation plan. Because that's something that can be developed in advance of getting the RFP and all of that. So then when we have our selected process or a selected consultant, we're ready to go.
Mhm.
But that public participation plan is a really great initial step that can be worked on now. And what was that? Oh, that was interesting.
Just this new system makes.
Oh, okay.
Heating or
noises.
something? Or
Huh?
I was thinking raccoon.
Heating?
Oh,
Yeah,
I think that's that.
compressor?
No, it's the collector unit. Cause they have those two units outside, and then there's, I think, 2 units in here that collect the refrigerant from these. And so we should look at that and see. So well, right now it's in heating mode. So it's probably like a water hammer, like a compressor hammer.
Huh.
That's what that moved that.
I have never heard that in my office.
It's
You
the
don't
first
hear
time it's
that.
happened.
no. not the first time.
Right here?
It's just, there's always like
Funny
up
noise.
in here, this whole area.
Yeah, this is a busy scene. All right,
Okay, sorry, I got distracted.
so if we find somebody, should I send them to
You
you?
can send them to me, you can send them to Niels.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll distribute them out
Okay.
to, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm really happy. I mean, I know that there has been a desire and an anxiousness to get going on the comp plan. I really feel like this is the ideal time to do it because we have a planner who's capable of doing it. We didn't have one before, and we're really past COVID in substantive ways to getting the public together. So I think the stars are very much in alignment, which is really exciting. So feel free to send them to me and I will continue to pass them around. Excellent. Thank you very much. Did we?
We didn't, Caitlin, we didn't vote.
That's what I was just asking. I was just about to ask. We need to vote. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the appointment?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So I was just trying to ask Carissa because I don't trust my own memory on whether or not we voted or not. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Rich. Thank you and Mary, thank you for bringing it back to my attention that I'd skipped that inadvertently. Upcoming events, we are going to celebrate our love of community on February 14th at the regular town board meeting. Mary, did I hear you are?
I am actually gonna be in Alaska that week.
I am glad you get to go back. That's wonderful. Excellent. Okay.
So I won't be here. And I think that Michael is gonna do the vouchers.
Wonderful. Thank you very much to both of you. And where in Alaska are you headed off to?
I don't really know. They haven't told me yet.
Excellent.
It's a surprise.
Do you go on little bitty prop planes to
Oh, yeah.
different
4
destinations?
seater, 6 seater.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good
So-
for you. Well, thank
So
you.
don't
for
send me to Wales where that woman got attacked by. a
Oh,
polar bear.
yeah, yeah.
What is it called, like bush planes or something, is that what they call them? or
Yeah, they're
something?
little, yeah, bush planes. Small planes.
Okay, so that's.
Okay,
So thank you, Michael.
So that is, what day is that again? That's
It's a
The 14th.
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 On Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, does that come off the hook?
You
Yeah.
got you off the hook.
Exactly.
No, actually it doubles.
Okay, and then our second regular meeting is on the 28th. So we have a few weeks before our next town board meeting. So that brings us to approval. And actually, Carissa, do we have any public holidays or do we have any town holidays in February? Do we celebrate President's Day? Couldn't remember.
Should have asked you anything?
Yeah.
I think that's a.
So, well, because yes.
Are there 2 or 3?
Anyway, so there might be some town hall closures. If so, they will be in the newsletter. I apologize for not putting them on the list, but I meant to ask and then forgot to ask and it didn't make the final agenda, but I don't think that's holding anybody up. There are no approvals related to that. That brings us to the approval of the minutes, and we have 3 sets of minutes. So we're shared electronically and posted on the website. January 5th, 2023 was our organizational meeting, big meeting packet. And then January 10th was our regular meeting, and we also had a public hearing on January 10th. Did anybody have any alterations or corrections to the minutes as they were presented?
Not an alteration, just a question.
Uh-huh.
On the January 10th, there was a resolution for the water meters that ends up being tabled. Remember, or it says it right there.
oh, yeah,
That conversation back up again. or-
we tabled it to find out that it was the whole,
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
it
ended up
was,
closing that later.
we closed it later in the same session because we verified in fact that
That
it
it
wasn't
was-
just the radio head, it was the full meter. We
Yeah.
did that in the meeting, so we closed it off. So we should be, that we should be good to go.
Good memory.
I moved the minutes.
So Rich has moved the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second,
Lots of seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
More like a 2/3, right?
Okie dokie. And then that brings us to, back to privilege of the floor. We've gone full circle in our meeting. It's been a very efficient meeting, lots of business taken care of, but. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to address us on any subject? There. Roxanne and Linda, just a second. I'm not seeing them. I'm seeing no jumping up and down. And with that, then I'll pass it to Rich.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Wow.
At 8:15.
Record.
Hey,
Thank you, everybody. Rich, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you doing that even when you are not feeling 100%. We're grateful for your time.
all right, take care.